Welcome to worship from Nora Unitarian Universalist Church for Sunday, January 10th, 2021. I'm glad you're all here this morning, joining together from wherever you are safe, in your living rooms, your kitchens, your studies. The board will meet via Zoom on Wednesday evening. If you have concerns or comments or feedbacks, please be in touch with President Jeannie Hinsman. Vanity of vanities, says the teacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What do people gain from all the toil at which they toil under the sun? A generation goes and a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun goes down and hurries to the place where it rises. The wind blows to the south and goes around to the north. Round and round goes the wind, and on its circuit the wind returns. All streams run to the sea, but the sea is not full. To the place where the streams flow, there they continue to flow. All things are worrisome, more than one can express. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, or the ear filled with hearing. What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there a thing of which it is said, "See, this is new"? It has already been in the ages before us. The people of long ago are not remembered, nor will they be any remembrance of the people yet to come. Why a flaming chalice? The question comes. It's the cup of life, we answer. A cup of blessings overflowing, a cup of wine for celebration and dedication. The flame of truth, the fire of purification, oil for anointing, healing. Out of chaos, fear and horror, thus was the symbol crafted generations ago. So may it be for us in these days of uncertainty, possibility, and danger, and a light to warm our souls and guide us home. It's time now for our story.
Hi friends, it's Reverend Emily, and I have a book today called Get Out of This Book. It is by Kali Dakos and Deborah Chalette, and it's illustrated by Sarah Infante, and it is a story about a bookmark, which maybe you've never ever heard a story about a bookmark. The subtitle is Rules and Tools for Being Brave. I'm Max. I'm a bookmark. I'm a bookmark who used to be scared to death of books. The pictures freaked me out. When I was put on a page with a king cobra, I couldn't look, and I shook, and I screamed, "Get me out of this book!" But no one heard, and I was trapped. That's when I snapped and went back to school for a special bookmark badge. I had to learn how to handle the scariest pictures in the scariest books. My trainer was tough. He taught me rules and tools for looking at scary. Then he put me in a book on a page with a shark. It had giant white teeth and it was swimming toward my face. I could almost feel the bites and my heart went ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. I couldn't look and I shook and I screamed, "Get me out of this book!" Then I remembered rule number 1 of the rules and tools. Breathe deeply. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Deep breath in, deep breath out. I kept breathing and breathing and breathing and breathing until my heart slowed down to ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. And I could look past the teeth to the eyes of the shark and say, "You're just a picture and you can't hurt me." Creepy was next. When I was put on a page with hundreds of cockroaches crawling toward me like an army, I couldn't look. And I shook and I screamed, "Get me out of this book!" And then I remembered number 2 of the rules and tools, make a plan. I decided to think up a song and to sing really loudly. Macaroni, macaroni, 1, 2, 3, you're not real and you can't hurt me. I kept singing and singing and singing and singing until I was able to open my eyes very slowly and look at those cockroaches. The next book was haunted. I was put on a page that was darker than dark, and I knew spooky dead things were hiding there. I couldn't look, and I shook, and I screamed, "Get me out of this book!" And then I remembered number 3 of the rules and tools. Think good thoughts. I will get through this dark page, I said to myself. If other bookmarks can, I can too. I couldn't see anything at all, so I decided to practice. What would I do if a 10-foot skeleton came out of the dark and was ready to attack me? I'd punch him. Then I'd watch his bones fall apart into a pile on the ground. They would look so silly that I'd start laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing. When I stopped practicing, I was still all alone in the dark, but I realized that the good thoughts were right there to help me. I graduated from bookmark school and I loved my special bookmark badge. I had learned rules and tools, and now I wanted to go into the scariest pictures in the scariest books. Before long, I found myself in a closet, a locked closet, a dark closet. I was trapped inside with a monster that had 7 hairy heads. I wanted to freak out. But then I remembered that I had the rules and tools, and I knew what to do. I started to breathe deeply. Deep breath in, deep breath out, until I was feeling calm. I made a plan. I stood up very tall and pretended I was not afraid. I thought good thoughts. I could do this. I could handle this. I would be all right. I looked right at the 14 eyes and the 7 heads. One head was looking up, one head was looking down, one head was looking halfway round, one head was screaming, one head was trembling, one head was closing its eyes, and one head was sobbing big, gooey tears. And that's when I realized that the big, hairy monster with all those heads was afraid of the dark closet too. I yelled at the heads, "Don't be afraid! Tomorrow someone will turn the page in this book and you'll get out. And everything will be okay." And then I knew that I would be okay too, even in the scariest pictures, in the scariest books, because the rules and tools really work. The end. When I was getting out this book to read to you, I found a bookmark inside, which I had not noticed before, and here's Max the bookmark, and on the back, Max has written down the rules and tools for being brave. Breathe deeply, make a plan, and think good thoughts. And if those are things that might be helpful to you to remember when you need to be brave, then you too could make a bookmark just like this and have it to help you out when you need to be reminded. Thanks for listening. I look forward to reading another story soon. Bye.
Joy and woe are woven fine, wrote William Blake. And when this we rightly know, safely through the world we go. Because we daily live the truth in the poet's words, we pause each time we gather to worship, wherever and however we gather, to offer into the care of this beloved community all our joys and sorrows. You may speak your joy and sorrow aloud into the space that you're in. You may type them into the chat, knowing that we receive them in the mysterious way that caring spreads through time and space. Today we hold with sorrow the lives lost on Wednesday in the insurrection at our nation's capital. And we hold with tender care and great fear the fortunes of our nation and the people of her. We hold all our joys and sorrows in our hearts as we enter a spirit of meditation. The words of meditation this morning are from the Reverend Elizabeth Wynne, a prayer for protection. For Black, Indigenous, Muslim, Latina elected officials, for residents of Washington, D.C., for each of us who has ever been handcuffed or tear-gassed or afraid of the police or white supremacists or our government, for each of us who is afraid every day for ourselves or our loved ones or our children or this country. May we be protected. May we be protected from generations of violence and hate, from pandemic and sickness and fear. May we be protected not because we have earned it, but because of the generous grace of justice and spirit. And may those of us who can be protectors protect, be pourers of tea for ourselves and others, builders of power for love for ourselves and for others, reminders to breathe and eat and fight and tend, to rest and risk, so we may all be protected. And in our doubt and stress, may we rest in the air and the earth and the sky that have seen governments come and go, despots and haters come and go, that hold our bones and our breath with sacredness and survival. Words from the Senator-elect Reverend Raphael Warnock. Will we play political games while real people suffer, or will we win righteous fights together, shoulder to shoulder? Will we seek to destroy one another, or heed the call toward the common good, building together what Dr. King called the beloved community? May it be survival and justice. May it be shoulder to shoulder. May it be beloved community. This is our prayer. Amen.
Dona nobis pacem, pacem, dona nobis pacem.
Dona nobis pacem, dona nobis pacem, dona nobis pacem, pacem, dona nobis pacem, dona nobis pacem, pacem, dona nobis pacem.
Our reading this morning is a poem by Danez Smith, My President. Today I elect Jonathan, 11 and already making roads out of water. Young genius, blog writer, little community activist, curls tight as Pinky swears, black as my nation. I trust the world in his tender, blooming hands. I trust him to tell us which rivers are safe to drink and which hold fish like a promise. And I elect Eve Ewing, who I know would frizzle the country into one big classroom where grandmas finger paint the national budget and uncles stand around smoking blacks, plotting on stars for our escape. She could walk to the podium at her inauguration and say, "The future is now," and we'd all marvel at the sun and moon looping the sky like a gif as the cars learned to fly and our skin grew bulletproof. And Colin Kaepernick is my president, who kneels on the air, bent toward a branch, throwing apples down to the children and vets. And Rihanna is my president, walking out of global summits with wine glass in hand, our taxes returned in gold to dust our faces into coins. And my mama is my president, her grace stunts on amazing brown hands, breaking brown bread over mouths of the hungry until there are none unfed. And my grandma is my president, and her cabinet is her cabinet, 'cause she knows to trust what the pan knows, how the skillet wins the war. And the man I saw high kicking his way down the river, he is my president. And the trans girl making songs in her closet, spinning the dark into a booming dress, she too is my president. And Shonda Rhimes is my president, and Nate Marshall is my president, and Trina is my president, and the boys outside Walgreens selling candy for a possibly fictional basketball team are my presidents. And the bus driver who stops after you yell, "Wait," only twice is my prez. And the dude at the pizza spot who will give you a free slice if you are down to wait for him to finish the day's fourth prayer is my president. And my auntie, only a few months clean, but clean, she is my president. And my neighbor who holds the door open when my arms are full of laundry is my president. And every head nod is my president. And every child singing summer with red, sweet tongue is my president. And the birds, and the cooks, and the single moms especially, and the weed dealers, and the teachers, and the meter maid who lets you slide, and the cab drivers who stop, and the nurse's swollen feet, and the braider's exhausted hands, and the bartender, and Beyonce and all her kids, and the rabbi, and the sad girls, and the leather daddy who always stops to say good morning, and the boy crying on the train, and the sudden abuela who rubs his back, and the uncle who offers him water, and the drag queen who begins to hum, "Oh, my presidents, my presidents, my presidents, my presidents, show me to our nation. My only border is my body. I sing your names, sing your names, your names." Here ends the reading.
We will not stop singing. We will not stop singing. We will not stop singing till the world can hear the song, till the world can sing along. We will not stop marching. We will not stop marching. We will not stop marching till the world can hear the song, till the world can sing along. Till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along. Till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along.
We will not stop praying. We will not stop praying. We will not stop praying till we all can get along, till the world can sing our song. We will not stop shouting. We will not stop shouting. We will not stop shouting, shouting right from wrong, till the world can sing our song. Till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along. Till the world can sing, till the world can sing, till the world can sing along. We will not stop singing. We will not stop singing. We will not stop singing till the world can hear our song, till the world can sing along.
A week ago, I told you that today I'd talk about the truth at the core of Louis's characterization of this new year as 2020 Part 2. And then Wednesday happened. dawning with the news that the Reverend Dr. Raphael Warnock had become the first Black senator-elect from the state of Georgia, exploding with insurrection as white supremacist terrorists were allowed to occupy the Capitol, reverberating with the news that John Ossoff had also won his runoff election, giving the Democrats control of the Senate, and drawing to a close as Congress reconvened and moved ahead with its work of the day, work that would not be completed before midnight, certifying the election of former Vice President Joseph R. Biden and Senator Kamala Harris as President-elect and Vice President-elect of the United States of America. Except nothing about the day seemed united in these several states, as Vice President Pence called them in his ceremonial duties. That lack of unity, on display as Republican senators and representatives failed to wear masks or maintain adequate physical distance one from another, on display as Republican senators and scores of Republican representatives pushed far beyond typical pro forma objections to the state of electors from one or two states, on display as supporters of the 45th president gathered on the ellipse and were addressed by that man, on display as those supporters revealed themselves to be insurrectionists, on display as Confederate flags were carried into the Capitol, on display as the law enforcement response to the terrorist attack on the Capitol was immediately recognized as inadequate, almost conciliatory in some instances, in marked contrast to law enforcement response to peaceful protests witnessing the audacious truth that Black lives matter. That lack of unity on display when Congress reconvened, determined and bold and perhaps a bit self-satisfied to finish their task, and still some handful of leaders continued to object to the slates of electors certified and submitted by the states, as is the state's right and obligation. That lack of unity on display from dawn until midnight could be interpreted as a sign that 2021 is not 2020 Part 2, and that I would have to find a new topic for this morning's sermon. After all, even 2020, with all of its 2020-ness, didn't have a single armed insurrection in the halls of the government of the United States of America. Wednesday was definitely something startlingly new. But we can only interpret Wednesday's events and that relentless display of disunity as something new if we weren't paying attention throughout 2020 and for many years before that, too. Wednesday grew predictably out of, he doesn't have a birth certificate, or if he does, there's something on that certificate that is very bad for him. Now, somebody told me, and I have no idea if this is bad for him or not, but perhaps it would be, that where it says religion, it might have Muslim, and if you're Muslim, you don't change your religion, by the way. Wednesday grew predictably out of, I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose voters. Wednesday grew predictably out of, if you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously, okay? Just knock the hell. I promise you, I will pay the legal fees. Wednesday grew predictably out of, I love the old days. You know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. I'd like to punch him in the face, I tell you. Wednesday grew predictably out of, you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. Wednesday grew predictably out of the relentless repetition of lies about the legitimacy of the Biden-Harris win and the integrity of the entire 2020 election. Wednesday sprang directly from, now it is up to Congress to confront this egregious assault on our democracy. And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong. Wednesday's insurrection grew directly from these and countless other reckless, false, incendiary statements, and it grew inevitably not only from the steadfast refusal of Republican elected officials, cabinet members, White House aides, staffers, and advisors to call out, rein in, condemn these and countless other reckless, false, incendiary statements, but also from those same elected officials, cabinet members, aides, staffers, and advisors' willingness, many of them, perhaps most of them, to repeat and amplify the statements. So my sermon topic stands: nothing new. I drew this morning's opening words from the first chapter of the book of Ecclesiastes in the Hebrew Scriptures. The concept of something new, the possibility that all life, and most disturbingly human history, recycles endlessly, is at least 2,500 years old. And from this week's vantage point, seeing how clearly Wednesday's shocking but not surprising events trace back to words and actions that are the same but for scale. From this week's vantage point, the likelihood that there is nothing new under the sun seems greater than ever. Which is not to say that I believe progress is never possible. I don't believe vanity of vanities is an appropriate characterization of human life and history in all times and in all places. But I do think new only happens when we act in ways that facilitate it. I think change in human affairs depends on deliberate and sustained effort. To the extent that we are currently living in 2020 Part 2, it's because we as a society didn't do enough to move on from 2020 Part 1. We didn't wear our masks and socially distance ourselves enough to move ourselves further toward controlling the coronavirus. Didn't demand real change in the political tone loudly enough or persistently enough. Didn't stop rewarding poor behavior, violent rhetoric, racist ideas and actions with clicks and retweets. Argued the distinction between defund the police and disband the police through social media instead of immersing ourselves in the history of the modern police force preparatory to engaging in nuanced, long-form discussions with neighbors and policymakers, and so forth. Now, I must say what could perhaps go without saying, but shouldn't. We spent most of 2020 in quarantine or lockdown or isolation or in some other way out of our normal routines and familiar places. We arrived in quarantine or lockdown or isolation or otherwise out of our normal routines and familiar places abruptly, with little time to pack up our work and our toys, and even less time to prepare ourselves mentally and emotionally for what these last 9 months have made of our lives. The abruptness and thoroughness with which our lives turned inside out consumed and continues to consume a lot of energy and brain power. I'm not here to shame any one of us for the ways we prioritize surviving the pandemic, surviving to this point. But just as what makes 2021, 2020 Part 2, much of what made 2020, 2020 began in 2019 or 2011 or 1974 or 1950. The work we leave incomplete or shoddily completed, the challenging ideas we skate over the surface of, the conflicts we make rhetorical skirmishes instead of substantive battles for justice and liberation, all of this is vanity of vanities. And if we will not remember the people of long ago and their victories and their failures, there will not be any remembrance of us by those who come after us. It felt irresponsible to speak to you today mired in despair. It felt disingenuous to speak to you today grounded in hope. As I prepared this sermon, I was poised, as perhaps you are as well. Not the poise of elegance or grace, but poised for action, for decision, poised to take flight into hope, poised to fall into despair, poised waiting for the rest of the story, waiting for my way forward to become clear before me. Mostly, I'm still waiting. Mostly, I wonder, with deep unease and not a little fear, what the next 10 days holds for our country. But a wise, more senior colleague once said that the minister is the person with the urgent sense of good news. And remembering that, I've pushed myself to remember the good news. Reverend Dr. Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff both made history in Tuesday's runoff election in Georgia. Something new under the sun. Kamala Harris will be inaugurated on January 20th, making history. Something new under the sun. The coronavirus vaccines, even now being administered across this country and many others, clumsily and unevenly and with no small amount of controversy over their distribution, the vaccines were nevertheless developed with breathtaking speed. Something new under the sun. Churches and schools and offices of so many kinds have moved online or into hybrids of distance and in-person operation, imperfectly, full of glitches, absent the daily bread of human connection, but functioning with some semblance of safety and productivity and education. Something new under the sun. Likewise, medical centers and veterinary clinics setting up in parking lots and utilizing telehealth, something new under the sun. Our definitions of essential workers have broadened, something new under the sun. With deep breaths in and deep breaths out, to center us and calm us and energize us, with a plan to move even just one policy or habit or law toward health and justice for all, with good thoughts to remind us that we are not alone, that change is both possible and in our hands. We can interrupt 2020 Part 2 and allow 2021 the space to become new, to become joy-filled and hope-laden, to become, and we with it. Amen. Now let us say in unison the words for extinguishing our chalice. The flame has been doused. The fire of our community still burns. In this moment, we become beacons on the prairie, bearers of light and warmth until we gather again to rekindle our communal chalice. Though our knowledge is incomplete, our truth partial, and our love imperfect, we believe that new light is ever waiting to break through individual hearts and minds to enlighten our ways, that there is mutual strength in willing cooperation, and that the bonds of love keep open the gates of freedom. Amen.